here.
Okay.
I'm sure some of you have too.
See you, Rupert.
See you, John.
When you get back to the
Next week we'll be
country club, I'll be with
introducing Mr.
Okay.
O'Rourke as our incoming president, and we'll take a giant leap forward, I'm sure. Thank you all for being here. It's a good day to be here. We have some very special guests with us. Can you hear me? We okay? Trying to get it adjusted here. One very important thing that came out this week, if you haven't seen it, the Capital Kiwanis Member of the Month in our magazine is our own John Montgomery. They say some wonderful things here about John. And John says he did not. Thank you for all you do, John. We don't call you Elmer for nothing. Today, our call for introspection will be Gary Dirk. The Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Keith Hartman. And Pegram Johnson will be introducing our guests. So, Gary, right behind.
Our introspection today comes from Kiwanis newsletter 19 years ago, November 20, 2004. John Montgomery was our president. You have come up a lot since then. And Bill Bestich was our secretary treasurer. So the introspection is entitled, I am thankful for the mess after a gathering because it means I have been surrounded by friends. The taxes I pay because it means I'm employed. The clothes that fit a little too snug, which means I have enough to eat. A lawn that needs mowing, gutters that need cleaned out, windows that need to be cleaned and fixed because that means I have a home. The huge heating bill means that I am warmed. Weariness and aching muscles at the end of the day means I was productive. President being here, he's very thankful that his year is about over with. And we like to congratulate him for being the 103rd outstanding president of this club. Here. And my final gratitude is for the alarm that goes off and wakes me up, which means I'm alive. And thank you, God.
Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Good afternoon. I am delighted to say that we have 6 guests with us today. And I'd like to ask those guests to stand up when I call their names along with their Kiwanis host. And I'm going to start with right in front of me, Beth Sharon, who is the guest and daughter of Don Chichester. Our next guest is going to get even more of an introduction in a minute, but let me ask Katie Rose, Miss Virginia, to stand up with her host, Sherman Lee. And Sherman can stay standing because he has 2 more guests. Dominique Ford with the YMCA is his guest. And Matthew Hogan of the Hogan Home Team is also his guest. So thanks for bringing 3 guests. Fred Jeter is back for a second week. Where is Fred? Right here in the back. He's a guest of Bart Wilner. And William Nell, who is right over here with Spectrum Media, I think it's Solutions. Good, is a guest of Keith Hart. And I'm happy to say that both Fred and William said yes to the question, are you a prospective member? Wonderful, good job.
Thank you, Pete. As Peter said, we have a special guest with us today. Sherman Lee will introduce Miss Virginia. I think this was planned knowing that it was my last meeting. He was obviously trying to impress me, which he has done. Sherman, if you would come forward, please.
First of all, I want to say, President Ben, I wanted to do something special for you today, so I had Miss Virginia to come down.
Thank you.
Thank you, agreed. But it is a pleasure for me to introduce to some of you, you may know her, the Miss Virginia for 2023, Katie Rose from Loudoun County, Virginia. And Katie is now living in Roanoke. And I had the privilege of giving her the bouquet of roses last July 1st at the Bergen Center once she won. And she didn't notice me that much because she was just weeping for the fact that she had just won Miss Virginia. But she is a talented young lady, and she has a bachelor's degree in government from George Mason University, government and international politics. So we're delighted to have her, and she can just share some other things about you. But what I really am impressed with is that her social impact initiative that she wants to do is to end domestic violence by empowering women and enabling reform. So I'm proud to introduce her again, and here she is, Miss Virginia, 2022.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for having me and welcoming me here with open arms. I've really enjoyed the lunch this afternoon, and I'm excited to share a little bit about the Miss America organization with you all. The Miss America organization is now called the Miss America Opportunity, and it provides opportunities for women all across the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States of America. It is the largest scholarship opportunity for women in the United States. And I am proud to say that with winning the title of Miss Virginia, I received $22,500 in scholarships, which will retroactively apply to my student loans, which afforded me my opportunity to pursue my law degree. And so after I'm finished being Miss Virginia, it's my goal to go into lobbying and to work with legislation to continue to end domestic violence and empower women. So my personal community service initiative, as Mayor Lee mentioned, is ending domestic violence by empowering women and enabling reform. So I have the honor this year of going across the Commonwealth of Virginia and creating a donations drive where I will go into over 12, 15, 20 women's shelters across the Commonwealth and give non-perishable goods, deodorants, cleaning supplies, personal care items to these women and children who so desperately need them. Because what I've learned through my own personal experience with dealing with domestic violence is sometimes you're so tied to that person that you don't have the opportunity to break free from that unless you have some of those resources that are readily available to you. So I also get to partner with the alcohol beverage control and go into the schools this year to educate our youth on the importance of building and maintaining healthy relationships and making healthy choices and decisions, understanding who a trusted adult is and what a healthy relationship looks like. So that's kind of what my job is as Miss Virginia this year with working with my community service initiative. But I also have the opportunity to go to Miss America and represent everybody in this room and the state of Virginia at Miss America. And what's so exciting about that is I get to go on a national level and talk about this really, really important issue with 50 like-minded women. And statistics unfortunately show that half of those women will or have experienced some form of domestic violence during their lifetime. And I, unfortunately, am one of those statistics. And so I know how important this cause truly is. And so I want to spend my year, not only as Miss Virginia, but taking this to a national level to address everything that we need to address in order to combat domestic violence. So it is eradicated once and for all. So thank you so much for your time.
And before you get away, our theme this year was fine crafted. We feel like we do that by the service projects that we offer, the grants that we do, the scholarships that we afford folks. But we're in the business of lifting people up here, as signified by our balloon pin. John reminded me that I should give you a balloon pin. Normally, I would pin this on you, but given the fact that you're a lawyer and well aware of the harassment issues, I'll let you do that yourself. Thank you. Greg Weinberger, would you come talk about bocce ball?
All right, many of you have heard this pitch, but maybe some of you haven't. I see maybe a couple faces that haven't. Our bocce tournament is October 21st, starting at noon. It's going to be a great time. We have sign-up sheets there on the table. It is $50 per team to play. We're encouraging guests. We'd love for non-Kiwanians to join us and get a sense of how much fun we like to have as a group. So they get half off, so $25 for the guest teams that you might want to have. So again, there are sign-up sheets there. The other piece of it is we're going to have a best dressed. And that best dress could come in any different number of ways. My idea here is to show off your personality. So as I told Angela over there, you know, if you're a big Harley Davidson rider, show up in all your best gear. I don't know about the full leathers, I might get hot, but if you're a Roanoke College guy like me, trust me, I'm going to be wearing my Roanoke College stuff. So use it as an opportunity to show off your personality. Come have some fun with your fellow Kiwanians, and who knows, maybe you'll walk away with a trophy. Thanks, guys. Oh, I've got a split that Clark will be picking up the sheets, the sign-up sheets. I've got to run. Y'all take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. It will be a lot of fun. Committee sign-up sheets for our directory. Those sign-ups are on your table. Also, you can contact the designated chairman of those committees if you're interested in serving on them. Mike is working on getting the directory out post haste, end of October. So, and thank you, Andre, for working on that. That's a big task. Officers installation will be next Wednesday. I can't wait. At 5 p.m. at Carvin's Cove. You have planned a gumbo. All right, Amy is cooking a gumbo for us, so it will be fun. And we all are familiar with the shelter at Carvin's Cove. Great setting, and Mike McAvoy is making that available to us again this year. Service budget funding requests need to be in this Friday. Those of you that are committee chair and requesting money for our service budget, if you could please get that to Mr. Haberman, Judge Haberman, or John Montgomery, or Mike Obraka, or somebody, so that we can get it into the mix as we start planning our budget for expenses next year. The grants committee is planning on Zoom. Is Dan Carnes here? Okay, different issue. The grants committee is planning our Zoom meeting this Friday at 2 p.m. If you're on the committee, you received an email with the Zoom link, but the Zoom link is also available to us on our webpage, the calendar section of our webpage. Now, Bob Haberman, the chair of the committee, was on a cruise last week, sailing out the east coast of the United States, dodging Hurricane Lee. He did make it back on Sunday, made it back to Roanoke, but then he tested positive for COVID after coming off a cruise ship. So I talked to him on Monday, and he said he really felt bad, didn't know if we were going to be able to proceed with the Zoom meeting under his leadership on Friday or not. So if it is going to have to be moved or changed or canceled, we'll get word out as best we can. But right now, it's still scheduled for 2 o'clock this Friday as a Zoom meeting. Let's see, with that, we've got time for brag bucks. Anybody have a brag? And for the benefit of our guests, brag bucks give the opportunity for someone to come to the microphone and speak for 2 minutes. About anything they choose to speak about, as long as it's family friendly.
Don Wilson, I have a brag. I have a brag on Ben Spiker. Thanks for an outstanding year as president of our club this year. And I will welcome you to the best job in the club, and that's the past president's club.
Thank you.
Well done, Ben. Let's hear it for Ben Spiker.
So, obviously I'm follically challenged. I think we all know that. And anyway, so the other day I went to go get a haircut. I was walking by a place. It was Supercuts. And it was like, I'll go in, I need a little trim. You know, I was getting a little fuzzy. So I'll get a trim. Walked in, I sat down, lady goes, and we were talking and she goes, I said, well, how much are we looking at? And she goes, be $28. I said, $30 for what I got what I'm working with? Said, no, I don't think so. So they do a beard trim for $7 and I gave a $3 tip. So $10. So that's my brag. My second brag is that, again, working with Ben has been a real honor as past president, and he has done a tremendous job for this club this year. And just hands another round of applause for Ben Spiker.
Good afternoon, all of y'all have $2, right? I want to make a brag on a very distinguished gentleman this afternoon, and his name is Mayor Sherman Lee. With all the headaches of trying to please 100,000 people, the man still stands tall. I try to just please one at home. I can't keep her happy. So I don't know how you're gonna keep all of Roanoke City happy and you still smile. I want to just congratulate you on another great year trying to take care of Roanoke City.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Lee, for your leadership. Brag bucks go to our foundation. Our foundation is the principal source of funding for all that lifting up we were talking about just a few minutes ago. Today's program on artificial intelligence will be introduced by Mike O'Brien. Mike.
So it's my privilege to give the introduction today for our speaker, Robert Turcotte. Turns out that Robert has endured working for Bart Wilner at Entree Computer for, according to this, 35 years. So I figure he's qualified to know how to succeed in almost every environment. In those 35 years, I understand he's come to help many, many, many businesses in our valley. I looked at the website and the list goes on and on. Probably half the businesses in this room have benefited from expertise from Robert personally or from his company in general. And as I understand it, after all that time and experience, Robert, he continues still to be excited about technology, which is why he's here today to talk to us. He's going to talk to us about AI. A little more advanced subject than QR codes for some of you. But he's going to explain perhaps what AI is and perhaps the significant of it is in our lives. Background, Jefferson High School's been in the news this past week, hasn't it? Turned into a big cultural and arts center, and the news this week says it's looking for a little funding. Turns out Robert graduated from there back in the day in the early 70s. And understand, actually, one of your favorite places to spend time is the Talbot Museum of Art. And independent of what I've heard from the microphone earlier, I understand that the true reason Miss Virginia came today was to hear Robert speak. Congratulations. Let's welcome Robert.
When I talk to folks about artificial intelligence, I consistently get two responses. That's scary and that's amazing. And in fact, it's both. And we'll talk about that, the effect on us as individuals and us as a society here today. Kathy Wood is, by some measures, the leading tech investor on Wall Street. And she's making a bold prediction. And in the next 7 years, productivity should increase by fourfold in our offices. And I heard a story from William a few minutes ago that a 30-hour project now takes 2 to 5 in his business. So we have evidence of that here in the room. And there are some cautions that we should be talking about. These chatbots can hallucinate, they can give you wrong answers, and it's up to you to check those. In particular, we're here to talk about a portion of AI called natural language processing. And that's just a branch of natural language processing. And it's if you are talking to a computer, and when the computer talks back, it's as if a person is on the other side. Now, I'm here to make a bold prediction. And we know what happens to people who make bold predictions. In a few years, you're either a hero, a genius, or you're a goat. So I invite you in the next few years when you see me on the street to talk to me and tell me which you think I am. My prediction is that natural language processing will be more impactful than the 3 pillars of modern computing. The 1981 introduction of the IBM PC, the introduction of the World Wide Web and the internet, and the smartphone. Pretty bold prediction, huh? So we'll see in a few years if I'm a genius or a goat. Now, there are 3 pieces that have to fit together perfectly for natural language processing to progress from today and into the future. First of all, human language. And that's embodied in the fact that we as individuals have a hard time communicating sometimes among ourselves. I might be talking to Mike, and I think I am communicating beautifully with Mike, but I look at him and there's a question mark over his head. I've missed. And it's even harder for computers. The artificial intelligence piece is a given. The study of this goes back to the 1940s when Alan Turing came up with the Turing test. And that is, if you talk to a computer and it talks back as if there's a human on the other side, it passes the Turing test. And the third piece that has to fit is computer science. It takes massive amounts of computer power to process these natural language processing questions. And that goes back to the 1940s when Alan Turing said that a Turing complete computer is a computer that can solve any problem given enough time. All the pieces are there. Let's prove it. On the human language side, what we're seeing today is the predominance of ChatGPT. It is a natural language processing engine that you can ask questions. This is a mutual project between Microsoft and a nonprofit called OpenAI. And you can go to openai.com to try it out. There's a free version. The most able competitor is coming from Google, no surprise there. And you can go to bard.google.com to see that engine. Here's one of the most important things I'll say. Don't search for these and take the first blue link. Go to openai.com or bard.google.com because there are people buying those keywords and trying to make money. You don't have to spend money to try these. Now, as you look at this list of things that these natural language processing engines do well, I'll tell you a story about something that happened in our office. I don't write programs, and principally because I'm really bad at it. I'm terrible at it. But ChatGPT was partnered with Microsoft because Microsoft was so impressed with how it can write computer programs. So I said, I'll give it a try. Walked downstairs and said, hey guys, I want to write a script, a program to control a Microsoft server. Give me 4 things it should do. And they gave me a list, and I walked back upstairs and said, write a script, a program that dropped the 4 items in. And when I touched the enter key, 4 seconds later, I had a program. Printed it, took it downstairs and showed it to Tony Harrell. Some of you know Tony. And said, what do you think? And he looked up with a surprised look on his face and said, that's it. I can write a computer program. Now, don't ask me to load it and run it because I don't know how to do that either, but I can write it with help. And then there's the artificial intelligence piece. And the reason you're hearing so much about artificial intelligence and natural language processing right now is because we've had a giant leap forward. And let's look at that. Microsoft expects this to be so impactful that it will be incorporated in every product they manufacture. The scale of what is possible is doubling every 6 months. That is incredible. And in all of my years back to 1979, in our industry, I have not seen a doubling that quick ever. To show you in pictures, if we go from left to right, in 2016, we could produce the picture on the left. A bird that looked sort of like a bird, and it was very small and there was no background. Last year, we could produce a bird that looked more respectable, still blurry and no background. And then 1 year later, a big picture of a well-defined bird with a suspicious looking bill and a wonderful background. The speed at which this is happening is going faster than ever because the GPT is generative, the G is generative, and that means these engines learn on their own. We don't have to teach them every little thing. As we use them, we teach them, and they get smarter. So let's look at what's behind that. I know that there's a physicist in the room and other people who like science. This is for you. What we have been using in AI is called a specific model. That model could do image or text or speech at the same time. Or excuse me, one at a time. When we go forward in time, the general models will do image and text and speech at the same time. And while it's doing that, it's learning. Let's look at a practical example here. I didn't know until I started researching that the New York Times has an R&D section. What they're doing in this section is to look at a body of reporting that is an accumulation of stories. And they're saying, have we missed anything? Are there 2 headlines that we can combine into a new story? And this gives their readership a better understanding of the news. Now, this complicated chart I'm going to break down for you because this is what's behind the whole thing. On the left is the specific model that we talked about. On the right, the general model. And when we look at the specific model, I'm going to use medical imaging as the example. So we've been able to, in the box to the left with the circles, take images, x-rays, CAT scans, and etc., drop them in a database along with the radiologist's report, and to analyze those and to see if the radiologist missed something. So artificial intelligence can come back and say, did you find that second kidney stone? And the accuracy at which this is happening at times is greater than the accuracy of the human. In the general model that the New York Times is using, now we can take that database, we can purchase other databases, combine them. We can take scientific papers on radiology, combine that. And through this self-learning, that engine can get even greater accuracy. And currently, it appears that AI in this realm is more accurate than humans. It's been very expensive to build these databases, and increasingly, it's less expensive. Here it comes. There are privacy issues as well. Those of you who are in the health area know that HIPAA is important, and sometimes we need certain information to be private, and we need to put guardrails around this to make sure of it. And you may have noticed that the OpenAI founder has been in front of Congress recently to talk about those guardrails. If you're talking to your legislators, call their attention to AI. I usually get a little chuckle when I say, our legislators need to move faster than ever. And they do. This is a real threat, and we need to make sure that we address it. And then the computer science portion needs to keep up as well. ChatGPT, even to Microsoft, costs a lot of money every single day at $700,000 to operate. So what are we going to do to process all of these requests and at some reasonable rate? This is one portion of the fastest computer in the world. It is used in nuclear work, and it's owned by our government. And I put the picture of a human there so that you can see the scale of a piece of that computer. I call attention to, on the left, that Hewlett-Packard is involved, and we're going to come back to that point shortly. And here's the computer built out. You and I paid $600 million for this computer just to build it. That doesn't even count the R&D. On the floor below, we're pushing up electricity, and from above, we're pushing down cooling. This is 3 massive floors of computer. Here's a new word for you, for those who love words, an exaflop. So a flop is one cycle of a computer, and it does that a quintillion times every single second, second after second. Truly amazing. And if we look at this chart, we can see on the right, this is a 1.2 exaflop machine. In the 30 years I've watched supercomputing, I have never seen the drop off from number 1 to number 4 happen so quickly. Look at number 4, it's 0.24 exaflops. This is a truly incredible machine. And then along comes Cerebras. You've never heard of it? This company came out of nowhere. And here's one portion of their computer and a portion of the build out to their exaflop machine, where Frontier cost $600 million. This one is a real bargain at $35 million to process at an exaflop. So this is happening really fast. And how do they do it? The chip on the right, the black one, is about this big. And that's the chip that processes in your home computer. Look how massive the computer chip from Cerebrus is. And it's so fast because you can keep the processing on a single chip. Here it comes. HP has said that they are going to make the fastest computer in the world. Look at the bottom. Their partner is Cerebrus. I think they're going to do it. And if that's not amazing enough, here come people from outside the supercomputing realm. Tesla has been promising us self-driving for a while. It's harder than they thought. And they're now moving from a rules-based environment. If you see a stop sign, stop. If you see a green light, go. They're keeping those rules and they're using this generative self-learning AI in this computer that they just fired up about 2 weeks ago. And I think they're at about 0.6 exaflops on fire up. And they say by the end of 2024, be at 100 exaflops. It's happening faster than ever. It's amazing. Here comes self-driving and so many more things powered by this technology. NVIDIA makes many of the chips, and they're saying in only 10 years we'll have 1 million times the processing power in a chip that we have today. So from the 1940s to today, we've made huge strides, and even bigger strides are in our future. And in fact, I believe that the pieces are there for AI and natural language processing to continue to progress. Now let's look at some practical examples. OpenAI has the text-based ChatGPT, and also they have DALL-E 2, which is the image-based product. Now, just like I'm not a programmer, I am not an artist. But with DALL-E, I can do it a little bit. I ask it for a pug with a surprised face, and with a person with a surprised face, and on a train and at a concert. From my sign on to this, less than 5 minutes. I'm an artist and a programmer. And Microsoft says, here comes a product called Designer that's going to let us design posters and trifold brochures quicker and better than ever. The pieces are in place, folks. So how will it affect us as individuals and as a society? Well, we've already talked about computer programming. I suspect there are some attorneys in the room. Estimates say that up to 40% of what happens in a legal office can be handled by artificial intelligence. Particularly at risk here is the paralegal, because they're doing research, and these engines do research extraordinarily well. And the industries that are likely to be disrupted. Educators jumped out really quickly. Sky hasn't fallen so far, although they seem to think that it would. A friend of mine spent the summer preparing her class instruction so that AI could be in it and that the students would learn in this new environment. It's here. Here's a person who is a programmer. His wife has a website and she wanted to automate a portion of that. He said it would have taken a day to a day and a half to write that program. He wrote it in 5 minutes and it ran the first time. And there's the code. Two people got together. They never worked together before. In 5 days, they produced a 136-page magazine with ChatGPT powering that effort. And by April of this year, ChatGPT had already driven half the gains in the stock market. Next up, I think, is ambient computing. That's computing that's everywhere. Our phones are always with us. If you're at home and you have an Alexa device, they can be dumb as rocks, right? Smart sometimes, but dumb as rocks others. And AI is coming and is going to help that type of interaction. Remember the Turing test. Another really important point is OpenAI, ChatGPT, Bard, and any other of the engines is, in fact, stupid if you let it be. If you ask a big, broad question, it's going to give you a big, broad answer and probably not the answer that you expect. Detail exactly what you want, and you'll get a better result. You can then go back and modify that request, and it will help you to modify and tune your thoughts so that you have the answer that you want. So in a few years, genius or goat, we'll all know pretty soon. All the pieces are there. There's some cautions along the way. Here it comes. We can't hide from it.
Any questions?
Do we have time for questions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Question.
I'll ask you this question now, later on I'll ask the AI. But AI can be disruptive to the workforce, and it will be, I'm sure, in the future. Also, how disruptive is it going to be, or how demanding is going to be on generation of electricity to power these compute centers?
The question's about the electricity that is required. I saw an article the other day that it takes about a bottle of water to process one request because of cooling. It's a big concern that our electricity and water is going to be used for this. And in fact, Dominion Power said last week that there's a new data center going in to process these requests. And they're going to have to build a new line and new transformers to supply the power for that. So it is a real concern, and it's up to us to address it, both in the legislature and from our companies. Anything else?
AI is collecting information, can collect data. How do you differentiate that? Because you could be asking a question and go down a rabbit hole. Get all kinds of bad information.
So the question is about accuracy, and indeed, these engines do have accuracy issues. There's a story about an attorney who was lazy enough to let ChatGPT write a brief for him that went to court, and all of the cases that were cited were fictional. They didn't exist. It is up to you to verify the results. I will be at the Botetourt Chamber tomorrow evening for their BOCO talks. And if any of you would like to attend, you can go to the Botetourt Chamber site. I'm going to get into what we call the requests, how you make them, and how you tell if they're correct. But in fact, it's up to you to verify that they are. Those are called hallucinations. What are the risks? We're at the beginning of that. Since I'm in the computer industry and helping people to keep their computers safe, I'll give you an early indication of something that's happening that you probably have noticed in your inbox. We get spam, and traditionally that spam is coming from someone who is speaking English as a second language. And they're poorly written can barely get through them and understand them, right? Look at your inbox now. They're well written. And not only are those spam messages well written, but these bad guys are using the programming capabilities of artificial intelligence to write the engines that are making the malware and planting it on your systems. So there's an early indication, and I'm sure that our legislators are going to find reason to legislate. One of the best questions I've had in one of these groups was, how do we tell if our legislators are doing their job? Well, in America, we're well ahead of the rest of the world, maybe not ahead of China, but well ahead of the world, in my view, in developing artificial intelligence. So our legislators are going to protect that lead because we want to maintain it and be somewhat light-handed in their efforts. Watch the European Union, because they don't have as much at risk. They'll take a leadership role and in fact have a timeline right now. And our leaders should be watching what's happening in the EU. Anything else? Thank you all.
Thank you. It's our custom to provide an honorarium to our speaker. This week's honorarium goes to the Bradley Free Clinic. Thank you. There you go. Let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for making this one of the best years I can remember at Kiwanis. I've been here now for 14 years. And it's been a fun and exciting ride, and it's coming to an end, and I'm very grateful for all you've done. Thank you. And with that, I say we're adjourned.